Hello, thanks for your interest in the Missoula County Trails Bond Program. My name is John Stegmeyer. I work for the Missoula County Parks, Trails, and Openlands Program, and I want to provide you a little overview of how the Trails Bond Program works. In 2014, the Missoula County voters passed the Parks and Trails Bond, of which $3 million was allocated specifically, as the bond stated, to provide additional opportunities for recreation, access to public lands, and connections between communities. The access and connectivity part of the bond will be made possible through funding new trail construction projects. All types of trails are eligible to apply for funding, whether they are aimed mainly for commuting on shared use paths, such as that picture on the left with the cyclist, to multi-use recreational trails for skiing or hiking or equestrian use. Anyone can come forward with a proposal for a trail project, whether they are a private citizen, a nonprofit organization, or a government agency. The only criteria for application is that the trail is within Missoula County and open for public use. Real quickly, I want to touch on some of the multiple benefits of trail facilities. Oftentimes, we might associate health and wellness and recreational values as the number one benefit of having trail facilities in the community. I want to call out a couple others that might be of interest that aren't often thought of when trails are mentioned. One is conservation. A well-built trail or a trail system can provide and secure habitat and open lands for an area. Trails can serve as a corridor for wildlife, as well as pedestrians and recreationists. Another value is transportation. Shared use paths such as that pictured below in Frenchtown offers a safe route for pedestrians, getting them off of a road with very little shoulder. Another benefit of trails in a community are those related to economic benefits. Tourism, if the trail system or trail is a high enough draw, people will come from outside of the area to use the trail for recreation. And studies have also shown that when trails are built, adjacent property values increase due to the demand and interest of having trails nearby. If you're interested in learning more about some of these other benefits of trails, check out the American Trails website for their research and publications. A really important part of how the Trails Bond Program works and will be successful is through the leveraging funds model. The way this will work, ideally, is that for every $1 of county trails bond funding, $5 more will come in from other sources. In other words, a 5-to-1 match of funding. The goal for this is to stretch the $3 million much further than just spending $3 million outright. Other sources that might provide this 5-to-1 match are some of the federal trail grant programs such as the Recreational Trails Program, the Federal Lands Access Program, and the Transportation Alternatives Program. That 5-to-1 ratio is a common amount for these federal grant programs. Other matching sources of funds might come from private donations and community fundraising efforts. All projects that apply for Trails Bond funding will be reviewed and evaluated according to the following 5 project criteria, shown here in size according to the importance. Access and connectivity as the number 1. If you recall back to the language of the Trails Bond, access and connectivity was the purpose of the $3 million funding. What this means is providing the greatest number of compatible recreation purposes and trail uses. Ideally, a trail should meet recreational and transportational demands. Trails should create links to places that people are already going to for work, school, recreation, or commerce. Additionally, trails should try to strive to meet access standards for the American Disabilities Act whenever possible. With project support, the goal is that projects align with existing plans and policies for a community. It is also important to show that the user demand is evident. Letters of support and community testimony will demonstrate whether or not project support is present. Additionally, are there volunteers identified or services available for donation of materials and labor? Also, is funding from other sources or grants secured as the application is submitted? Last, does the trail project create partnerships and strengthen community bonds? Whether or not a trail has a good opportunity for success depends on a few factors. One would be the blessing of the property owner of which the trail is located on, whether that's private property, government land. Has the property owner signed off on the idea of a trail crossing their property? Additionally, is there a detailed timeline that shows the viability of the project? Along with that, a detailed construction budget that shows how the project will be funded. The design of the trail should provide cultural and natural resource interpretation or educational opportunities. The trail design should be mindful of natural resources and seek to protect or enhance them whenever possible. Safety is another important design consideration. Does the trail improve safety by getting people off of roadways? And it's also important to emphasize that trails don't have to be on county-owned land. Simply located within the county would be the criteria. As the Trails Bond Program doesn't supply funding for ongoing maintenance, it will be really important that trail projects that apply for funding have a maintenance plan already in place. This would include anticipated costs for maintenance and an idea for where funding will come from to cover those maintenance costs. Applications for Trails Bond funding will be accepted on a rolling basis until funding runs out. There are two levels of applications. The first, the level 1 application, is fairly light by design, intended to gather the basic and fundamental elements of a project. Applicants will submit the level 1 application in person at the Community and Planning Services office and discuss in detail with staff their ideas for the project. Once this is completed, the applicant will receive the level 2 application. The level 2 application goes deeper into detail regarding those 5 project criteria. Once the applications have been submitted for review, Parks, Trails, and Open Lands staff will work closely with the applicant to guide them through the application process. In part of the process, the applicant will present to the Parks and Trails Advisory Board their proposed project. They will also lead members of the Parks and Trails Advisory Board and members of the Board of County Commissioners on a visit to the site where their trail is proposed for construction. Upon completing these stages, the application process will conclude with a public Board of County Commissioners hearing. The Board of County Commissioners will have the ultimate say in whether or not the project receives Trails Bond funding. Qualifying expenses for Trails Bond funding would be any costs related to the design or construction of a trail. Maintenance and ongoing maintenance is not a qualifying expense for Trails Bond funding. Thanks again for your interest in the Missoula County Trails Bond Program. I'm John Stegmeyer. Please get in touch with me, and I look forward to hearing about your trail project idea.